Hello and welcome to For Your Journey. On this month's episode, we're going to be talking specifically about the season that we just entered, which is this Lent season or the Lenten season. And we have District Apostle Kolb here. You just held the Lent service earlier this week on Wednesday, where you were able to bring some clarity to that term. And we wanted to talk a little bit further about it. Really, it's mostly probably commonly understood as a Catholic term, and when we hear Lent, and we just wanted to talk about that. Are we following just some Catholic tradition, or bring some clarity to that for us, please?
Yeah, I think generally a lot of people are aware of that in the Catholic faith. They have certain rituals that they do with the Ash Wednesday with ashes on their head and things like that. But a number of denominations outside of the Catholic Church also recognize Lent. And so it only makes sense that we should also look at that as a wonderful season in preparation and in contemplation of Jesus Christ and his passion, his sacrifice, and then his resurrection.
Yeah, and in that service, you provided some ideas or suggestions of how to best kind of utilize this time or enhance this time to make the most of it.
Yes, I think that it's, again, we won't have a ritual that we will do, and each one individually has to decide themselves how they can do that. But the idea is that we take some time, we spend some time. Generally, it's thought of as a time of fasting, and the Chief Apostle provided a nice definition for us, a nice direction for us to let go of things that are not essential and focus on what is. And so the key is to take away something and then put something in its place that brings you closer to Christ.
Yeah, I think that's a key element to highlight, that you're taking something away, but also replacing it. I've heard about fasting as abstaining from something and replacing it with something else, creating the physical time in our calendar, the mental time and space in our heads and in our hearts to draw focus. It's not necessarily, also fasting isn't just food either. It's
Right.
you can fast from technology or from certain uh, activities or things like that.
Pastimes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also needs to be intentional. It's not just, oh, I was so busy this week, I didn't have time to watch TV. I fasted from TV. Like it's going to be a decision, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And even just to fast from something and check it off and say, oh, I fasted during, I had no chocolate during Lent. So am I okay? What did that have to do with thinking about Jesus Christ? That's really what our focus should be on.
Yeah, I remember years ago, I had a friend and they fasted, uh, particularly from things that started with the letter P, and I go,
Hmm.
that's it was just odd to me. And then they explained it. They go, it's easy just to fast from a certain thing categorically, like you said, chocolate or something like that. But they said by deciding to stick to things that with the letter P, it really requires me to analyze, what am I putting in my body, right?
Hmm.
From a food perspective. And then it also, again, you're abstaining from that, but it's replacing it with the thought of, Jesus's words, man cannot live by bread alone. Am I taking in enough of Jesus to sustain me? So
Yeah.
they actually had to look at ingredients sometimes and go, okay, this has this in it. I can't eat that for this season, because they're trying to draw attention to what does sustain me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Martin Luther also had an interesting idea on that. And he said, we should not be inhibited by anything that God does not impose upon us. So nowhere does it say that God said you shouldn't eat certain things. And he said, so everyone should eat as they will. And in other words, to sort of separate the idea and focus more on this concept of what does Christ mean to me?
Hmm.
And I think, especially in a way, over this pandemic period, over the last year and a half, uh, hopefully we have looked at ourselves and our relationship with Jesus Christ. And now we have a chance again to put on glasses and look at it through a microscope, maybe a little closer, to say, do I truly have a feeling with the Lord? Do I feel him near me? Do I have an understanding? Am I learning more about him? I think that's a great focus during the Lent time.
Hmm. Yeah, that reminds me of something that came out in service this week was about, taking this time for reflection, for introspection. And sometimes that reflection part is also synonymous with like this word meditation, which isn't necessarily about like Eastern practices or things like that, but it's even in the Bible very clearly, when Paul is writing to the Philippians in Philippians 4, verse 8, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, that are pure, that are lovely, that are good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Let them just take you over and meditate on them and think about them and give them the attention and respect that they need and deserve.
When you read that verse, my first thought is anytime anyone opens a social media outlet, this should flash on the screen first.
Mm-hmm.
Think about all of these things. Think about what's good, what's pure, what's lovely. Meditate on that, and then write your messages.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Because you will
ultimately,
change so much, even to start the day with that kind of thought. You know, is a
yeah.
wonderful way. And meditation takes time
Yeah.
and solitude
Yeah.
to some degree. You have to. You can't necessarily do it in the midst of a meeting or in the midst of doing other activities. It takes some time by yourself to think on those things.
Yeah. Yeah. To reduce distractions, to reduce the noise. I heard many times, if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. There's
Mhm.
so many things to take up your time. And especially with this season, we should be thinking about Jesus all the time. But this season brings, what we've sometimes referred to as like a heightened sensitivity to it.
Mhm.
And particularly with this Philippians verse, what's noble, what's true, what's good, what's lovely, what's pure, like that's Jesus Christ.
That's
He's
him.
he's
Yeah.
all of those things.
Yeah.
And we need to
Yeah.
meditate on him, especially during the season as we prepare to experience the Holy Week coming up in a few weeks. So
Exactly. And I think if we take the time to do that and make that preparation, then the experience of Holy Week will be totally different for us. Palm Sunday will have a certain significance. Good Friday will be a very moving time for us in the service and in that whole experience that we have on Good Friday. And then Easter will be an incredible rise to recognize the tremendous power when Christ arose, and that's what accelerated the beginnings of the church.
mhm. No, absolutely. Awesome. Well, as also you mentioned in the service, and for our audience here, we have a few resources available to help enhance this season. Some tools to equip individuals or families or different small groups or whatnot, and that can be found at nac-usa.org/Lent. Those things can be downloaded there. And we thank you for joining us on this episode of For Your Journey, and wish you a contemplative Lenten season.